So, new Tulsi Gabbard video. She says, my urgent warning about Kamala Harris. I guess she's on Fox News again. She has already endorsed Donald Trump. I have that video on my channel if y'all want to watch it. Like, officially, she's gone full blown MAGA, I guess.
Are now part of the Trump campaign. Explain why. Why did you go with Trump?
Do it.
David, the choice in this election is very clear, and the differences between President Trump and Vice President Harris couldn't be more stark. Frankly, to put it simply, the choice for the American people is a choice with Donald Trump, a man who values peace, prosperity, and freedom, and he has a record that proves that, and Vice President Kamala Harris, whose record shows an increasingly tyrannical government undermining our freedoms. We are embroiled in multiple wars around the world and closer to the brink of nuclear war than ever before, and increasing economic hardship for Americans throughout these last 3.5 years that she has served as Vice President of the United States. The contrast couldn't be more clear. This is personal for me, this endorsement of President Trump, because
she's not wrong. Things are getting pretty bad out there. The relations are not good. And I think that's why a lot of people are wanting to try something different. People say she's a Russian asset. They say that, but she's not. That's just trying to destroy her credibility. She's not a Russian asset. I don't believe that hype at all.
As a soldier now for over 21 years, I've deployed to multiple war zones in different parts of the world, put my life on the line for the safety, security, and freedom of the American people. So it's important to me and to every one of my brothers and sisters in uniform that we have a commander-in-chief who values every one of our lives, who carries that responsibility as commander-in-chief very seriously, and will therefore exhaust all diplomatic avenues before seeing war truly as a last resort. And the last point that I'll make on this, that is another point of contrast, is President Trump showed through his last administration, not only did he not start any new wars, he took action to prevent them by courageously meeting with adversaries, allies, partners, dictators. He would meet with whoever he needed to pursue peace.
And then they would say that because he was meeting with these dictators, that he was only meeting with them because he wanted to be a dictator himself. Holy moly, I just spent $19 on a burger meal for lunch, never coming here again. I thought Kamala was fixing price gouging. Is that Culver's? You have to let me know if it's actually good. I need a recommendation if I need to try it or not. I don't think Trump values life. Why would you say he doesn't value life? Everyone who disagrees with Hillary is a Russian asset, according to Hillary. Exactly. Everybody. If it's not my narrative, then it's just propaganda and misinformation.
Harris criticized Donald Trump for doing exactly that, which shows that if she's elected president, she will not do what is necessary in the pursuit of peace. And I am certain that she will lead us very quickly into a war to mask the weakness and insecurity that she feels and try to project strength using the lives of my brothers and sisters in uniform to do so. And
it's not like Donald Trump just sat on his hands when we were challenged abroad. I mean, ISIS is a perfect example of that. ISIS was supposedly an intractable problem during the Obama years, and he managed to wrap the things up pretty clearly, wrap it up in Syria and Iraq, where they were doing most of their horrible, horrible work in a matter of months. And he did it with very targeted, and he wasn't afraid to take on the Russians, by the way. He killed about 200 Russian troops, mercenary troops, who were in Syria during the course of that effort.
There we go.
You know, that's an interesting contrast that you point out there between Donald Trump, who recognized the threat of Islamist terrorism.
See, she went to the Islam terrorist because she didn't want to talk about the Russians, you know, because Russian asset, right?
And acted decisively to defeat ISIS. And you contrast that to what we saw during the Obama administration, and quite frankly, even with Kamala Harris, they won't even use the words radical Islamist terrorist, because they're so afraid of being called Islamophobes. And under the Obama administration, they refused to go after al-Qaeda. They refused to go after al-Qaeda in Syria specifically. So you look at the contrast of these presidents, you look at Kamala Harris, who will not use those words and cannot be trusted to keep the American people safe from this continued and very real threat of radical Islamist terrorism, both militarily and ideologically.
Yeah. And, you realize very well, because you were dealing with this in 2020 during your debate with her, how she tries to wiggle out of her past statements and do flip-flops in order, depending on which audience is in front of her. Now she's trying to appeal to a broader, more moderate group of American voters. So she's denying all sorts of things from her past. And one thing that she denied essentially yesterday by not showing up at the memorial to the 13 service people who were killed 3 years ago was her role in not only the withdrawal itself, but the way in which that withdrawal was conducted. She kind of let it out in 2021. I want to play that tape and get your reaction. Roll it.
Afghanistan.
Yes.
Were you the last person in the room?
Yes.
And you feel comfortable?
I do.
You think she's going to try to wiggle out of that because it's on tape?
Of course.
Of course she is.
Of course. It's like every other major position that she has taken that has turned out to be such a disaster for the American people and our well-being and our national security. It is disgusting to me, David. It is maddening that not only has she was basically silent. Okay, she put out a little statement on a piece of paper yesterday, but why wasn't she out there at Arlington Cemetery? Why hasn't she reached out to those Gold Star families of the 13 men and women who were killed in that disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal, that, as she said, she was the last person in the room to speak to Joe Biden when he made that decision, and she's good with it? Why hasn't she called them to check on them, to apologize to them, and grieve alongside them for their loved ones who will never, ever come home? This is yet another example of why Kamala Harris is unfit to serve as our president and commander-in-chief, something I've been warning the American people about going all the way.
He said God kept him from being killed, but doesn't mention those that died. That's not true. Literally every event, he talks about the people that died. He says Corey over and over, and how they have like a fundraiser going on. They donated all this money to the families of the guys that died. So I'm going to say no on that. Didn't care about COVID deaths other than the political effects. I don't know if we can actually say that. I can't sit here and tell you that Trump cares about COVID deaths. I don't know. People died after January 6th. There was only one person that died in January 6th, and it was one of the protesters. Just don't believe he has the ability to feel empathy. Maybe.
Way back to 2019.
Now, you did pin the rose on her for her past statements and contradictions back in 2020. Are you going to help, or are you in the midst of helping former President Trump as he prepares for a debate with her?
Well, President Trump is ready to debate Kamala Harris today. There's no doubt about his preparedness. Any ability for me to offer some additional help will only come from my experience of having been on that debate stage with her, knowing how, as you said, she's going to try to wiggle her way out of her very real record that she's had over these last 3.5 years. And as we saw in her speech at the Democratic convention, we've seen how she says, well, we stand for freedom. I'm going to be a president who champions freedom. Meanwhile, she, even as Mark Zuckerberg just pointed out, she and Joe Biden have used them to do their dirty work in censoring Americans' free speech. She has labeled me a domestic terrorist, put me on a secret domestic terror watch list because of my exercise of free speech and exposing her record. So whether it's freedom, democracy, border security, rule of law, war and peace, what she says, her record is the exact opposite.
Yeah.
And Trump definitely needs to have Tulsi help him with the debates, because she's already smacked down Kamala. She's already been there. She's already won that fight. There are several. Oh, damn, I missed it. Where'd it go? I lost it. Well, and YouTube chat didn't keep up with it. So afterwards. So after. So you're talking about the police that killed themselves after, not the actual events. Defense Department on Okay. The Democrats made a mistake when they ignored Tulsi. She's mad as hell and spilling all the secrets. Well, yeah, when they put you on a no-fly list, or not, it's not technically a no-fly list, but they're basically just slowing her down and going through TSA, taking hours, and her entire livelihood is traveling around. Of course she's going to be pissed. How could she not be pissed? They're treating her like she's a terrorist when she's actually a veteran. Actually, I think she's still serving. I don't think she stepped down yet. She's a lieutenant colonel. She served in a medical unit. She's seen some things for her country.
Now, we talked about your record not only with Congressman Walsh, who's an old friend of yours from your days in Congress, but also with the gentleman who preceded you. But how did 12 months in Iraq, you were there, incidentally, the same time period that my son was there. He's a Marine. He's in a different outfit, but he was there at the same time. How did that inform your view of our role in a very dangerous world? And might that play a role in the Trump administration if he's elected?
I served in a medical unit there, David, where every single day I was confronted with the very high human cost of war. It was such a life-changing experience for me that made it so that when I came home from that deployment, it motivated me to try to find some way, shape, or form where I could help influence and impact and make those decisions about war and peace, about where our men and women in uniform are being sent into harm's way, because I saw up close and firsthand the war profiteering of the military-industrial complex. I saw politicians who would fly in, take their photo op, and leave, who voted to start that war.
I saw that all the time in the military. These goobers would come in, they'd hand out their card, vote for me, brother, I'm pro-military, I'm going to help you so much. They didn't give a shit about us. I remember specifically, I don't know who the person was, I was very, very young as an airman, but this dude wanted to make sure we got some photos together because I was like on my lunch break or something, I'm in uniform, I just went out to get some food, and he's like, I better get a photo so he can throw that up on his webpage. This dude in uniform. Look at me. I support the troops so much. There's some shady people out there. There really is. There's some disgusting people.
Took so many American lives, and the hypocrisy that they say thank you for your service on Veterans Day, and yet they will not hesitate to use us as cannon fodder, essentially, to advance their own personal, political, or power-hungry goals. So President Trump understands this. Obviously, I have had a different experience, but what I witnessed at Arlington Cemetery yesterday morning as he spent hours, David, he spent hours with these Gold Star families. There were 2 survivors of that attack at Abbey Gate in Afghanistan who were severely disabled for the rest of their lives. He understands the gravity and the seriousness of the commander-in-chief's responsibility, and he's eager to take that responsibility back to stop these unnecessary wars of choice, to walk us back from the brink of nuclear war and put us back on that path towards peace, prosperity, and freedom that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have so completely destroyed throughout these last 3.5 years of their time in office.
But it is peace through strength that he believes in, not unlike Ronald Reagan. I'm just wondering, would you play a role? We got to run, but would you play a role specifically in something involved with the military or defense if he is elected?
If given that opportunity, I would be grateful to serve and help him save our country and get us back towards that future for all Americans.
Well, we are.
All right. So there she is, Tulsi Gabbard. Trump's probably going to give her some kind of position if he hasn't already.